Maypole Farm, and we are in the last of the days of winter. The slurry tanks in both sheds are close to full, so because it's a clear, crisp day, we're going to get some slurry on our main grass field and just kind of max out the nitrogen on there. It seemed like a better way to use it than to sell it, because the selling is quite time consuming and it doesn't really pay that much, so that's why we're going with this option. I'm hoping that when I re-edit this I have game sound, but I don't seem to at the moment, so yeah, we'll have a look at that when we go back in to editing. But for now, hopefully there's game sound. If there's not, there'll be music. Needed to put some fuel in the Deutz as well. You'll have seen from the thumbnail that later on we get into a bit of contracting work. We do have some field work to do in March, but because we've been paying bills all through the winter, cash is a bit light, so I thought we'd do a bit of contracting to start to bring some cash back in, and it seemed like a fun thing to do. So part of that process is you will have seen that we were running, so I'm just sticking it up to 100 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare. That's going to pretty much maxes out across most of the field. You will have seen I was running 2 seeders on my tractors. Currently I only have one. End up buying another one. I think I've spoken about this before. The plan for this game year is to either buy or lease with an intent of buying all of the kit we need for contracting. So 2 seeders is sensible because some of the fields are quite big. We probably want to pick up a planter for some planting contracts. We've got a fertilizer spreader. I want to do some extra stuff with that. And yeah, plough, cultivator, that kind of thing. I generally don't do weeding contracts because I find they just do not pay well. For how long they take. We do actually have a weeder, so that's an option as well. But generally I don't do those because they don't pay well. We still have the plot of land that I've been working on with the trees, so I will mix that in occasionally when things are quiet. And again, I've got the kit over there on lease. The trailer probably going to bring back over to the yard to use as a bale trailer, because it's leased. I can't edit it, but what I'm going to do is just go into the XML, because it's just taking off those log poles, and that must just be a case of split pins and bolts and stuff to get those off. So I think that's perfectly fair to be able to do that. I might end up leasing it with the intent of buying it, I'm not sure. So if you watched Friday's video looking at leasing or buying, obviously lease to own costs a bit more, but it spreads the payment out over time, and unless we can afford to flat out buy it, that's the only option, because I think what I planned with a loan on here is a max of 10,000 as an emergency fund. So we're never going to be able to borrow enough to buy something if we can't afford it. So we're going to have to save up or lease, and use lease to own, because that's kind of, you're essentially getting it on finance at that point. So that's what this tractor is on. Yeah, I am pondering a third medium-sized tractor. The bit that's holding me back is when we hit August, we will have done the 2 years in the 80s and early 90s, and we'll have then open up the rest of the 90s for tech. And there are some nice late 90s tractors, so yeah, kind of holding out for that. Maybe see if we can get through with, or maybe just lease something for a few months. That might be another option. That kind of mid-term leasing, I'm kind of more curious on now, because it's not going to cost as much as I thought, I don't think, particularly for something older. So yeah, maybe I'll do that. But what I want to get to is the point where we're kind of running this as the dairy farm and a contracting farm, and it feels weird that the contracting agency, we'd be borrowing other farmers' equipment, so we're just contracting out labour. That's not how I want to play it going forward, so I'm going to have to get a lot more kit. It's just one of those things, and we might need some more building space at that point. But it's entirely possible that we'll clear that plot of land and build a shed on it. Maybe set that up as a satellite yard because it's further into the map, and have that where all our contracting kit is kept. It might be a cool option actually. It just kind of occurred to me as I'm rambling away that might be a really good way of managing this to get a bit more space. It's not the flattest piece of land, which is the only problem, so maybe not. Maybe we'll have a look for another plot to set the other yard up on. Curious about that now. Anyway, alongside having lots of slurry, we also have quite a bit of milk, so I've got one of the workers going on the slurry tank, and we're going to go and sell the milk. I think we have 2 and a bit trailers full. I'm only going to do 2. I'll do 2 full loads basically, and that'll top the cash up quite nicely, which is good because we do want to spend some of it in a bit. So, well, next game day. In March, the grass has not quite grown enough that we can switch back to zero grazing, so we might have to hold on to the mixer through to April, and then we can crack on with that. So we'll keep hold of that for now, and actually it's been quite nice using TMR, but I do like the idea of zero grazing, so we will go back to that. Something I'm pondering is switching zero grazing so that rather than doing grass plus hay, we do grass plus silage. I think, from watching people like Tom Pemberton, they're more likely to buffer feed silage than hay, and we have a lot of silage. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of swapping that over. We've yet to open the maize silage clamp, so I think that might be what I do for the summer feeding, so fresh grass and silage. Not sure. Yeah, I mean, it's what, pretty sure it's what the Pembertons do. Pretty sure that's what Cow Farmer Dan does. None of them seem to make that much hay for feeding to cows, so seems, certainly in the UK, there seems to be a lot more silage based work than hay based, so that's why I think I'm going to do that. And it helps us out because we don't have the most hay, so we do have a lot of silage, so that is that's probably what a farmer would do, so that's what we're going to do. Nearly 8 grand for the first load of milk. We're going to fill up with diesel on the way past because the light is flashing, so it's a good point to put diesel in. I tend to run on here pretty much to an empty tank, just from the money side of things. So, and this save is a classic example of the stuff I was talking about in that leasing versus buying video, where a lot of the kit I can't afford to buy. But I am leasing it, and I've got a lot of it on a long-term lease, mainly with the intent of using lease to own to buy it eventually, because I do plan to run this save for 10 years in game, so that's definitely the point where it pays to own stuff if you're going to keep it. And the guy who was working on the slurry spreader's gone for lunch by the looks of it. What I'm going to do is to build this up as a big contracting business. At the moment is my plan. We'll hold on to everything, and the older kit will shuffle into that, and I'll keep some of it around the yard or whatever, and maybe end up having to employ a few more people and that kind of thing. So we'll just kind of grow it and see how it goes. I mean, Cavalier Roy's maps are really good for that because they have a lot of fields generally, and so there's a lot of contracts. I'm not saying that we are going to keep this series exclusively on his maps, but it does have a lot of nice maps, so we will see. Obviously, there's the looming prospect. I don't know how close it is really of Oxy's new map, Court Farms. There is also the looming prospect of Terra Life, which Court Farms will be a Terra Life, or will eventually be a Terra Life map. But there'll be a bunch of others as well, so who knows where we move to in the end with this series. The plan, and actually I might not do it on the 2-year point with this one. The plan was to move every few years. I might do another year on here because I'm really enjoying this, but I kind of like the idea of setting up the contracting yard on here. So if we can raise the capital, that might be a project. Yeah, I just realised I had said we would be moving maps every couple of years, and at the moment I'm enjoying this map, so we're going to do more. I think we'll do more than finish out the harvest year on here. I was kind of surprised when I looked that I have come up to the point where in a few months we'll be moving the timeline on a bit. So if you're new to this series and you haven't watched from the beginning, the idea is that we are moving through the decades of kit essentially. So this first 2 years was going to be 80s, but there wasn't enough kit, so I've done 80s and early 90s. The next 2 years will be up to kit from the 90s, all of the 90s, and then we'll go 2000s, 2010s, 2020s, and that's where the kind of 10 years comes from. That it's 5 decades and 2 years a decade. So because I can't do 50 years. But yeah, that's how this series is set up. I've called it hard mode because I'm not using things like auto load or super strength. Not magical auto load anyway. In the future we'll get some of the bale loading trailers as they become available. It can come on hard economic difficulty as well. Obviously I've spoken about the fact that we can't really borrow huge amounts of money to just buy what we want, and yeah, I think that's everything that I decided was hard mode. I don't have stones on. Don't care what people think. That doesn't make the game harder. It just makes it annoying. So, and you know, and if I look at the local farms where I am, they're not out rock picking every year, which is what you would be doing on Farm Sim pretty much. So yeah, that's why I've gone with that. It's well, actually surprisingly, they're not really rocks. We had our water supply fixed last year now. Had to have the water main renewed, and they dug part of the garden up, and it was a surprising amount of stone in there. But you know, by the time you've worked the field a few times, that's going to be pretty much dealt with, I would think. So yeah, I don't have stones on because they're just an annoyance in this game. So I think we've got down to about 8,000 litres in the other shed. I think we're going to take this one down to about 16,000 litres left, which will be fine for, you know, keeping them going for a bit longer. At some point we might have to sell some of it. Now that we're moving into March, we'll obviously be much busier, so there's a lot of contracts crop up. There's our own field work, so we've got maize, beets and soybeans to plant, so yeah, and lots of grass work obviously, so we're going to be pretty busy, on top of as many contracts as I can squeeze in within keeping the game on sort of ×3 to, I mean, playing on ×10 at the moment, so that kind of speed range with me plus 2 workers at the moment, because I don't think I can afford to pick up any more. So yeah, I will probably do some of that contracting work between videos. You know, you don't necessarily, that maybe not, I'm probably going to have it running in the background a lot, I think, because while I'm doing something, have the lads off working on something else. I'm not so much a fan of the way Mr. CDP used to do other things. You know, it's like, oh, between videos, I've just done 50 contracts and we now have £500,000 in the bank. I quite like to see that process, so I should be mindful of that in what I do. So yeah, we won't just do a load in the background. But a little bit of foreshadowing at the end, I pick up a whole raft of fertilizing contracts, and we'll probably just spend a bit of time doing those slowly through in the background. The Fiat is back from selling the last of the milk, and it is now March, and the contracts have all appeared. And there's this rather nice plant seeding contract on field 82. It's a pretty big field. It's a field that we harvested at the end of last year. So we're going to run up to the store. We're going to pick up another seeder. So we'll have two. And I'm going to do a bit of tandem me plus courseplay. So it's, I think it's a really nice way of doing this job. Sometimes we don't have enough kit to be taking on other jobs. Although I think the little Zetor could run one of these seeders. That's why I'm thinking about getting a third tractor of this sort of size. We could maybe pick up another one of the Deutzes. Yeah, I wouldn't be averse to that at all. They're a really nice tractor. Need to have a look at horsepower for kit and stuff. So we're going to start off with having a look in the sales, because there's some specifics that we want. That 40 series is very tempting, but as I said, we would need to raise the money to buy that outright. Although it says cultivator, that's a weeder. We have a weeder already. I think we own a weeder. I'm quite tempted by one of the plows that's on offer. So we've got the Kverneland Ecomat and the Agramaz. So that's only $4,500. It needs 160 horsepower, which the Fiat could run, the bigger Fiat. So that's definitely an option. The Kverneland is 220, which is above what we've got. So I'm actually going to pick up that plow because it's a pretty good deal, and only £4,500, and we do need a plow on the farm. So with doing contracting, we'll obviously be doing a lot more ploughing than we would normally do. And as I've been speaking about, I want to end up owning all the kit that we need. So annoyingly, the seeder we want isn't in there, but it's only £6,000, so we'll just pick it up new. Again, because I'm expecting that we'll be doing quite a lot of hours with this stuff, that's why I'm not leasing it. It's I think it's going to be more cost effective to own. We do need to get seed in. So you may have noticed when I was scrolling through the contracts, the feature that was added to better contracts a while ago, you can have seed and fertilizer in the equipment. So not leasing it means we don't get that. Keep your eyes peeled for another possible change to my contracting setups. But we do have some seed left over from previous ones, so we're going to chuck that in the seeders. Yeah, so what I'm pondering is, because I don't want to lease equipment, but I really do feel that if you're doing a job for a farmer, they would provide the fertilizer or the seed, or you'd be charging them for using the consumable. That what I might do is change it so that seeding contracts provide some seed, fertilizing contracts provide some fertilizer instead of equipment. So I think that might be an interesting way of doing it. Curious what you guys think of that. Yeah, I do find it weird that the farmers don't provide the consumables that you're using to do their field work. And maybe it's covered in the compensation that you get. And your contracts are still profitable, even buying seed and fertilizer. So not like it's a massive problem. I guess I'm just trying to make contracts a little bit more profitable. I don't know. Let me know what you think below. Also going to say thank you to patrons and the YouTube channel members at this point. Appreciate you guys supporting the channel. Yeah, so very cool. So getting these loaded up. I do love playing with the little JCB telly truck as well. You can see us having one of those on the farm in the future for ourselves, for doing you know, bale work and stuff. It's a nice manoeuvrable little bit of kit. I don't know. So one of the reasons that you'll have seen I picked up a fertilising contract. The reason I didn't send the Zetor off to do that is I'm not sure if it can run the fert spreader, but if it can, then that would be really cool. And then having something like the JCB about would be really useful. So need to have a look at that, because it would be nice if that could run it. I don't think it's heavy enough. My concern. Do like the look of that John Deere as well for 30 grand. It's a good buy. It's a nice tractor. It's one of my favourites in the game. So, and it's nice to have a wide range of kit, you know. And I know a lot of contracting firms kind of standardise. Maybe long term we could do that. There was a news article. It was listed as an agricultural contracting firm, but they did a lot of kind of non-agricultural work as well. They had just put an order in for £87 million worth of JCB kit, I think. So yeah, maybe in the future we'll standardise on a brand, but at the moment it's kind of what we can afford and what's available. So, and maybe at some point we'll brand our kit. Who knows? But yeah, let's get over to the field and get to work. Do like follow me. It has been a very useful addition to the game. I think it's missing a feature that I used to really like in FS19, which was to make the following worker wait. That was really good if you were using it doing things like baling behind a combine, or this. So I used to do this kind of job with follow me. You put one on follow me behind you and staggered, and sometimes that was quite good if you could get that to pause. But you know, I'm not complaining. It's very useful. Something I do need to do on here is get auto drive better set up. I think that we can move a kit around the map a lot easier. I should maybe have a look at downloading a proper auto drive network. That might be beneficial. I've never done that before. I've never downloaded, you know, like, I don't know if yeah, is it Auto Drive Guy that makes auto drive networks? Never downloaded anything like that. I don't know if there is one available for Maypole, but that might be kind of cool. Yeah, I just think it's going to make my life much easier sending bits of kit around the map to get to all the different fields that we'll be working in. And I can maybe even experiment with getting auto drive and courseplay to just go off and do the job and come back. That's something that I've never tried, so that might be interesting. Actually, one. So the grape mini-series will be wrapping up this week probably. One of the things I've considered for another mini-series is a future farm where, you know, we've got autonomous kit, and so trying to do as much as possible with auto drive and courseplay. So setting it up so that I can, you know, from the yard send a tractor off to a field to do a job and come back. Because it's not something I've ever pushed that far with automation. But yeah, I'm curious if you think that would be interesting. And I know it's kind of the sort of Argsy did a lot of that in FS19 with automating as much as possible. He was really good at it. There are some things that aren't possible yet, you know. On his Australia series, I don't remember which map it was, he managed to automate loading of a lime spreader with a bucket and shovel, or front loader and shovel. So, you know, he really nailed that stuff down. But I'd like to have a go at something like that, maybe. I might just integrate bits of it into other stuff, but yeah, I'm kind of curious as to how well I could do that. Horseplay's got itself stuck, which is a little bit annoying, but you might have noticed, I dropped the working width slightly when Courseplay generated the course. That was to allow me a little bit of freedom with my following in case I'm not super accurate. Because obviously I'm not following course plate here. I'm driving, and that just gives me a little bit of leniency on how I place myself next to how the course plate worker is running the course. Yeah, I'm not sure why I stopped there. Yeah, the weather's about to get pretty grim. It's still obviously, UK spring is not always the nicest, let's say that. And with relight, it gets pretty dark once the bad weather kicks in. But it's just a shower that's passing over, so we're going to keep working because I want to get this job done, basically. I do have the mini contract HUD up as well, which is quite useful until we pick up all those FERC contracts at the end, and then it gets a little bit ridiculous. So, yeah. Update on Disco, I guess, for those that are interested. It's Friday today, so it's a few days later, but he's doing really well. He's getting to the point where he's getting bored, and that means he's probably starting to feel better. So he's just getting bored of being stuck doing nothing at the moment. So he managed to get his the protective cone off his head last night. Thankfully he didn't actually do anything because he still has quite a large wound that's healing. So yeah, he's doing well, which is really good. Obviously very different to where we were a week ago. What else can we chat about? So I spoke about in Saturday's video, Linus Tech Tips being hacked. Being the size of channel that they are, rather than it taking the days it took Mr. CDP to get things sorted, they were back online within about less than 18 hours before their channel was back and completely restored. I guess that's the benefit of having direct contact to Google. They've released some stuff about how it happened, I think, which I've not watched yet, but yeah, it sounds like it was a very long day for them. They did get everything sorted, and yeah, so they as well as being a YouTube channel and many other things, they run their own video hosting platform called Floatplane, and I decided to have a look at that, and I picked up a subscription to their channel on there, because they release some exclusive content on there, and I really do enjoy the stuff that they make. So I did that, and yeah, there's an hour-long stream from Linus of Linus Tech Tips, talking about what happened and stuff, and so I'm part way through watching that at the moment. Yeah, but hopefully it will lead. So one of the things that they did post about is they're hoping to work with Google to close the security hole that these hackers are exploiting continuously, with how they are, I think they cloned the cookies that manage the login. So even if you have two-factor authentication, it doesn't really ask you for the authentication because you're already logged in. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's how theirs worked, but it's the one that got Mr. CDP. It's the one that's got a bunch of other fairly big YouTube channels recently. So the plus is, I guess, that well, two pluses. Generally, they don't delete the content; they set it to private. So although it looks like the hacked channel's content is all vanishing, actually it's just being set to private because that's quicker for them to do, for the hackers. And what they did on the LTT stuff is they then started unprivating it with new descriptions with the links to the I guess hack sites that they were trying to get people to click on. So yeah, they don't lose the content, so that's a plus. The other one is, yeah, I think that the guys at LTT will be trying to push Google to close that backdoor, which will be good. It seems to be a fairly massive problem on YouTube at the moment. Plus for me is I'm too small for them to care about, but if you've got sort of 60 plus thousand subscribers. Definitely something to be wary of, I think. Yeah, I don't know all the details of how it works, but I think Mr. CDP's was as simple as a something that looks like a PDF but isn't. Is an executable that runs some code in the background. One of the other ones that was shared around that time was the same thing, and the interesting thing is they don't necessarily instantly react on your mistake. They can sit on it for a little while and wait. So the LTT one, they did. LTT are based in Canada, and they did it during the night time there, so it took longer for them to be spotted and to react. Now the community for Linus Tech Tips went kind of exploded. They have an old-fashioned, I've spoken about this a little bit I think, but anyway, they have an old-fashioned forum website, like back in the day. That exploded, and I think that's possible, and through whatever means they found out very quickly. I think by 3:30 a.m. in Canada time, they were working on sorting stuff. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. They've released content about what happened already, so looking forward to having a listen to that a little bit later. So, yeah, it's a really cool topic. I think it's and educating yourself about how it happens might help protect you from it happening. So it's it's available on their Floatplane site, which is a subscription site. So I think it's all going to be on their YouTube channel as well. So maybe go check it out. It'll be up there by now probably. So yeah, it does raise the question about hosting your stuff just on one site. So I currently do not keep copies of all of my old content. Maybe I should. There's a logistical problem there, with just purely how many gigabytes of data there is. Maybe I should upload it somewhere else so that I've got another backup. I don't know. What I do know is we're pretty much done. I did have to put some more seed in. I got another bag of seed delivered down to the field to put in. Yeah, we are pretty much done with this contract. Didn't take long. It was really nice to get back to doing field work and not just feeding animals. So Attingham has to go through winter still, and we have quite a lot of animals on there, so that's going to be a fair bit of work, but we'll get it done, and we'll progress that one through as well. So Attingham is going to run through winter, through harvest, and stop. So we have run out of seed in the other seeder. Contract's done, so we're going to call it a day at that point. And you'll see a whole lot of, so we're going to claim the 13,600, no costs because we used our own kit. I'm going to accept all of these fertilizing contracts for next time. There is a lot of them, so I'm just going to edit the better contract settings so that I can have unlimited contracts, because that's what we do. And we're going to take all of the fertilizing contracts, yes, all of them. So I may not show all of those because that is quite a lot of contracts. I think it's about 18. We'll see in a moment. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, click the like button, comments, questions, suggestions below, and I'll see you next time for 18 fertilizing contracts.